At the Constitutional Convention, the architects of our most precious national document didn't want to give too much power to the federal government. You can't blame them. They had just been through a bloody revolution to break away from a powerful central government. And that's why they wrote the 10th Amendment, the last amendment to the Bill of Rights, that states, any powers not designated to the United States, nor prohibited by it to the states, is reserved for the states respectively or to the people. In other words, if the Constitution doesn't explicitly say that the federal government has a power, it doesn't. The states do, or the people do. But over the years, through legislation, executive order, federal court rulings, the federal government has grabbed more and more power from the states in areas like education, law enforcement, health and welfare. Just before he left office, President Obama signed an executive order giving power over the state's waterways and watersheds to the federal government. And they're just a few examples. But now there is a constitutional uprising to stop the out-of-control growth of the federal government, an uprising that has been underreported, almost unnoticed. But that may not be the case anymore, because it's getting to the point where the uprising is tough to ignore. It's called the Convention of States, and it's based on Article 5 of the Constitution that gives states the power to propose and ratify amendments to the Constitution. You see, the Founding Fathers thought of everything except they purposely made this an arduous process, and some would say unrealistic, except for the fact it's getting closer to reality than anyone thought possible. 12 states have already passed an application for a constitutional convention, and legislation has passed at least one chamber of the legislature in 10 other states, and legislation has been proposed in 18 states. This is getting to the point where it's not only possible, but probable. But what do the people pushing this hope to achieve? It's not one thing. The Convention of States is pushing legislation to propose amendments that would limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, that would impose fiscal restraints and place term limits on federal officials. In other words, the convention would be charged with reining in the never-ending growing power of the federal government. We haven't had a constitutional convention in this country since the only one back in 1787, where the founders wanted the states to have power, but most importantly, as expressed in those first three brilliant words, they wanted we the people to have power. Now, over 230 years later, 1 million people have signed a petition to regain power with a second constitutional convention. It is important to point out that there are other groups pushing for constitutional conventions. One group strictly wants a balanced budget amendment, and the other group wants campaign finance reform. And some constitutional scholars argue that once a convention is approved, all groups will lose control of what can and can't be brought up. That can all be sorted out when there is a convention. But in a divided country where anger is spilling out into the streets because of the actions or inactions of the federal government, controlled by lifelong politicians who fuel the divide for their own personal power and profit, but the Founding Fathers gave us a better way. A way to form a more perfect union, to reestablish justice, and to ensure domestic tranquility. It's simply called Article 5. And you can help make history by signing the petition at conventionofstates.com. The first national convention tried to ensure that we, the people, had power over the government. We've lost that. It's time to take it back with a second constitutional convention. I'm Larry Mendte. Talk to you again next week.
Call to question.